Former swimmers looking for a way to give back to the sport in New York City? Reach out to Imagine Swimming. Since 2002, they've been the premier learn to swim school with international and American staff, including Olympic champions Anthony Irvin and Eric Beine. Imagine Swimming offers infant to adult classes, plus competitive team options, water polo, and an artistic swimming club coached by an Olympic silver medalist. With flagship locations across Manhattan and Brooklyn, Imagine is always looking for the next generation of swimmers to pass on their knowledge and passion for swimming. We individualize training in the pool, so why not individualize your nutrition? Erica Beine of Beine Wellness Building will help you and your swimmers get exactly what each athlete needs through genetic testing and personalized nutrition plans. So stop guessing what you should and shouldn't be putting into your body. Athletes within a few weeks have noticed they're recovering faster because they're fueling their body with what they need and staying away from what their body hates. Erica understands swimming. She gets it. She's worked with over 20 Olympians, including the fastest man in the world, Caleb Dressel. Group discounts are available, so go to Beine Wellness Building and get in touch with Erica today. That's Beine, B-E-I-N-E, wellnessbuilding.net.
All right, Brendan O'Melveny. Did I get it?
Yeah, you got it. How are you,
All
Nick?
right. Yeah, it sounds like we were just talking about how tough an Irish name this is with an apostrophe and all this, and how you can't get into your swimming pool because the computer system has an apostrophe, but it doesn't have an apostrophe on your actual card or whatever. So I'm sure it's a lifelong issue. Just same for me with a crazy last name. But welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. Well, so yesterday you were supposed to be on with Brett. Brett called me up and we were just talking about it, and he was like, Nate, like you love water safety so much. Like, why don't you do this one? And I thought that's not a bad idea. I spent like a long time researching and volunteering for a decade or so with International Water Safety Day and Diversity in Aquatics. And I just like learned. And I was calling people up like Dr. Michael Lennon from Task and Dr. Robin Jorgensen, who did this big study in Australia about kids learning how to swim. And so I'm just like, self-educated in the drowning and water safety realm. And we talk about it a lot in our newsletter at swimspam.com. And this last couple weeks ago, we talked about how I guess the governor of New York was about to pass this law that would require anyone to have a baby in the state of New York to watch basically this short video that essentially says, hey, did you know that the number one way your kid's going to die before the age of 5 is from drowning? And this is something I've been talking about for a really long time, how water safety starts at birth. And so lo and behold, you're the COO of Imagine Swimming, one of our partners here at Inside with Brett Hawke. And you guys called us up and said, hey, like Brendan's like been doing this. And we said we should definitely talk about it. It's a very important issue in America with over 1,000 kids drowning every year. So can you just explain to us what the newborn hospital video bill is and what's going to happen in the state of New York now?
Yes, it's a bill that's modeled on a similar video or law in New York and also in other states that requires new parents to watch a short video on shaken baby syndrome. And I had to watch it when I had my first child. It's short, it's effective, it's kind of scary, but it also gives you some effective tools with dealing with stress. It's as a new parent, especially a first-time parent with a little one, we think, myself as a lifelong aquatics educator who's taught lots and lots of parent and me classes with very young infants, I thought I would be pretty well prepared for parenthood, but you just don't have any way to realize how all that stress and sleep deprivation and new experiences and this huge responsibility are going to affect you. So this video does a great job at just essentially letting you know these are the kinds of risk factors that can lead up to this situation. It can happen to anyone. And here are a few basic just tips to help deal with the stress. Just put the baby down, just go take a break. It's not the end of the world if they cry. So we knew about this law, and we thought, why aren't we doing something for water safety that's very, very similar to this?
Yeah, that's a good idea to like model it after something that's already been passed, right? It makes it way simpler. You know, the thing that not to cut you off, but the thing that I always thought was like, man, since the 1940s, the government has been funding Smokey the Bear. You know, don't burn down the forest. Like there's a Smokey the Bear billboard down the road from my house. We've never had a fire here ever. I don't know why we're spending money on fire education in an area that has no fires when we could be teaching water safety education. And anyways, I'll let you keep going there.
Yeah, well, it's good that you brought that up at the New York Water Safety Coalition, which is the group that got this hospital water safety video bill written and passed. We talk about exactly that. You know, we need a Smokey the Bear for water safety. We need some sort of big slogan. We need a campaign. We look at car seats and bicycle helmets, all these things that were originally just, you know, not a big deal. Nobody really saw them as risky or issues or health hazards. And now they're ubiquitous. You know, nobody puts their kid in a car without a car seat. Nobody lets them ride a bike or even a scooter without a helmet on. So we, as a group, very frequently brainstorm about these kinds of things and have these sorts of conversations. And then we prioritize based on, you know, what we think is going to be the most impactful, given the risks and the issues involved. And then also, at least at this relatively early stage, what's going to be a light legislative lift. And this idea checked all those boxes. You know, it's the law is already there. So we basically just wrote the same law as the Shaken Baby video law, except for water safety.
Right.
All the legislators, you know, understood the framework, and they were aware of the Shaken Baby law for the most part. Very few of the people we spoke to were aware of the fact that drowning is the leading cause of death for kids under 5, second leading cause of death for kids 5 through 14. Very few people we talked to realized that 4,000 people drown a year in our country. And yet almost everyone we spoke to had that, you know, story where their neighbor drowned when they were a kid, or their cousin, or
somebody that they knew.
Yeah. So it's this weird dichotomy where everybody has that personal story, but nobody is aware of the true scope of the problem. And so as a group, we we engaged a lobbyist, and they helped us get meetings with the right legislators, the right state senators, assembly members, the governor's office. And we were able to have those conversations and educate them about the real risks and how much of an issue this truly is. And as soon as we were able to get them that information, for the most part, it was pretty much smooth sailing. There were some hiccups, but everybody supported it.
How long did it take though? Like this isn't a very simple process. I mean, we're talking about lobbying politicians, right? To really make a broad sweeping. This is going to change. This is going to be a big change, right? Like people are their lives are going to be affected by it because they're going to be when they have a baby. And this is one of the things that I thought too. Like we've had 2 kids, they're 2 and 4, and I sat there and watched this 45-minute video twice, you know, in the hospital, and they talked about lots of stuff. And they never talked about the number one thing that kills kids, you know, until the age of 5. So that's when I started thinking like, holy cow, this is crazy. Then I heard Bodie Miller, the Olympic skier, say like, hey, I didn't even know. And I think that's when it ultimately like really hit me was it's just like everybody. It's not like different minority groups of people don't know, or poor people don't know, or anything like that. It is everyone across the board. They don't realize that it's the number one killer of kids. Can we just play this clip real quick? This clip had such an impact in me, and I just found it again, luckily, and it's just 20 seconds real quick.
We both regret not doing more research and seeing what is the number one cause of death for kids. What's number 2? What's number 3? We lost ours to number 1. Number 1 cause of death for kids under that age is drowning. We'd never heard of that. Like, of course we know drowning, right? Everybody does. But like, if we knew that, I think we would have approached it differently. So
Yeah. I mean, he just hits the nail right on the head, right? Like
Mhm.
we didn't know. And that's what I love about this legislation is now, like if you're having a baby, you're gonna watch a 10-minute video all about like, hey, this is the number one killer of kids. And like you said, it costs almost nothing.
Mhm.
You know, you guys made the video. I mean, no one even has to make the video. They just have to implement this when people are having babies. So, how long have y'all been working on it now? A couple years?
Well, I mean, I would trace this back to the beginning of the coalition when we started in late 2020, when everybody was shut down for COVID. At least in New York City, they closed all pools for about 7 months after COVID.
Crazy.
And in the state, I think it was more like 3 or 4 months. But it was driving us insane because we had all this information that showed that swimming pools, indoor pools, were almost, if you look at the engineering, the air movement, the fresh air intake, the exhaust, the filtration systems, et cetera, it's almost as if they were designed to prevent the transmission of COVID-19. And then you
Yeah.
add marine into that, and it's just, so we had data in from the United States Swim School Association. They were tracking cases of transmission at swim schools across the country, and the number
Interesting.
was almost zero.
Yeah.
And so we knew kids aren't getting COVID, people aren't getting COVID at swimming pools, and
Yeah.
yet we also suspected that we were in the middle of a perfect storm where drowning rates were going to shoot up dramatically because there was no access to swim instruction. The National Institutes of Health has done research that I'm sure you're aware of that shows participation in formal swim instruction reduces a child's risk of drowning by 88%. So that
Yeah.
same age group, this is kids under 5, that same age group in which drowning is the leading cause of death, just taking swimming lessons can reduce your chance of drowning, your risk of drowning by 88%. That's huge. But there weren't any swimming lessons being taught.
Mm-hmm.
There were there weren't any life.
There's no education going on, right? Do you guys have any water safety education in New York's public schools?
No,
Right.
not at all.
Yeah, neither do we. I mean, we're in Virginia Beach. We're everything revolves around the water here, and we don't. There's just nothing. There's no beach day. Like, there's no field trip to take the kids to the beach to say, like, hey, this is a tide, and this is a current, and this is a rip current, and then this is all the different things that you can learn about beach safeties. We don't do anything. So I think ultimately that's the biggest theme we keep hearing is there's just water safety education just isn't part of the school system anymore anywhere in America. And ultimately that's what we're trying to bring back, I think, is our get the education back into schools and obviously into hospitals, because this is where it starts. Like the parents need to know that this is the big one. This is the one you should be the most fearful of.
Yeah. So we also had a situation where backyard pool builders were having their best year in recorded history at the time,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And the beaches weren't being lifeguarded. So, and what we saw as an unfortunate result of that is a significant increase in drowning rates. But that's what made us come together initially as a coalition. We reached out to as many different swim schools across the state as we could, including our direct competitors in the city. And several kind of core members responded, and they knew what we were talking about, and they were willing to take the risk and work together. And that's how we started. So we together we got a lobbyist, and we started bringing some education about the potential drowning risk increase that we were seeing as a result of COVID, and also the relative safety of swimming as an indoor activity under those circumstances. Now, once all the pools reopened, we sat down and said, are we done? Do we just like check this off and move on?
Yeah.
And we decided, no. I mean, several of our core members, you mentioned school education. One of our members is the president of Stop Drowning Now, a national nonprofit that provides water safety education curriculum to schools. Anyone with a .edu email address can go in, download that curriculum, and bring it to their classroom.
Wow.
Another one of our members is the he started a nonprofit called End Drowning now, and he works together with the guy in the hospital, the pilot video that we made. If you remember, Rich Specht and his wife talking about losing their toddler.
Yeah, Reese.
Yeah. So he works with Rich and the Respect Life Foundation to bring assembly-based school education to parents, and it's this really effective, really fun, engaging thing that they do for the kids. And the kids get excited about it. They get the information. They bring the information home to their parents. They start talking about it. So we had all these resources that, just like intellectual resources, ideas, and passion for drowning prevention that we thought we could turn into legislation. So we decided to stick together, and we brainstormed some different issues. The first one that we worked on was would have provided a transportation subsidy for kids who live in swimming pool deserts to get to an area where they can access swim lessons. That didn't really move for like boring legislative reasons, but it got us in the door. It got us FaceTime with these politicians, and it allowed us to find out which ones were really interested in and wanted to become champions around water safety related issues. So that's where it started. And then we also, this past year was when we really had our first success, and that was with both a hospital video bill and also a public awareness campaign, which would require the Department of Health to run ongoing public awareness campaigns on drowning prevention.
Like a Smokey the Bear type of a thing.
Yeah, and that was an interesting process. We got, full support from all the senators and assembly members that we spoke to. It just it hit a procedural hurdle, and then we just ran out of time at the end of the legislative session. So we're pretty confident that we'll be able to push that through in the upcoming legislative session. But that was an interesting process because I went to the CDC website. They have these data visualizations, and you can pull causes of death by age group.
Right.
In New York, there's a law called the Public Health Law 207, and that's the one that requires the DOH, the Department of Health, to do public awareness campaigns on causes of death, public health threats, et cetera, et cetera. If you look at the list of topics that the current law requires them to cover, and then you look at these CDC causes of death by age group, for kids under 5, you see pretty much every cause of death in the public health law, except for the one that's at the top of the list, drowning. Then when you look to the 5 to 10, 11 to 14 age group, you see every single thing except for the second cause of death behind only automobile accidents, also drowning. So our idea is, we'd like to start with a hospital education so that parents get this knowledge when they really need it, so that they have it when their children are in that most at-risk age group. Then we want to more broadly educate the public with the public awareness campaign, because it's not only young children that drown, and there are a lot of people. If you can afford swimming lessons, you get this education, all the time. It's not as much of an issue. But unfortunately, statistically, kids from lower income families are much more likely to drown and more likely to not be able to swim well enough to save themselves in the deep end. Same thing for Black kids. Black kids drown at significantly higher rates than white kids.
Yep.
So we think this public awareness campaign can help, spread that word around even more broadly. And then, we'd like to work on school-based education. There's in Florida, and actually 3 other states. I think Florida, Georgia, Washington now. And
I was going to say California, but maybe not.
Not California. Maybe, I don't remember. But so they have Every Child a Swimmer legislation. There's a group called Every Child a Swimmer. There's a website called everychildaswimmer.org. You can go on there and find a swim lessons finder tool, put in your area code and access, see what options you have for swimming.
Sure. Yeah.
The legislation itself basically says, all right, when you enroll your kid in school, in kindergarten, you're asked, does your child know how to swim? If yes, great, please, send us your child's completion certificate or whatever from their swim school. If they don't know how to swim, okay, here's some information on why this is important. and where you can find swimming lessons. So that's a big thing. Again, not a heavy lift, not
No.
expensive. The foundation already has the website. You know, you can go in, if you're in New York, probably if you're in Virginia, you can go in there and find at a minimum U.S. Swim School Association member schools. You might also be able to, in Florida, you can also find Red Cross providers.
I was like YMCA's, Boys and Girls Club,
Yeah.
JCCs, you name it. Yeah. I mean, that's part of the thing. Like, we do have all these places that can teach you how to swim, but we don't go and learn how to swim still, you know? So if we just put it in school, then there would be no questions. It wouldn't matter how rich or poor you are. It would just be part of it.
Yeah.
So I think, like, the way you guys are going about it makes a lot of sense to me. You know, hospital bill, that's number one. You know, that's the easiest one. It's where it begins, and then move from there. I think I even made a little mock brochure. My idea was like, hey, we'll just print brochures, and then every single person will get a little. And I kind of made it scary, you know, like really impactful with maybe a little over the top, to be honest. But that's what my feel was like. Hey, these people need to know. Like, just like Bodie Miller said, like, I don't know. And interestingly, you know, I watched the video, and that's like one of the main themes. You know, it really tells the two stories of Reese Specht and Kayla Barnes, how they both drown, and they're two different situations. But both sets of parents, they kind of tell you, like, well, like, hey, like, we were ignorant. Like, we of course we know about the dangers of drowning, but we didn't like really know, you know, and we didn't know we could get them swimming lessons at such an early age. So the video does this really nice job of showing that, like, this is a big educational problem that we have in America. And then the other interesting thing was, like, they were also saying, like, hey, like, start swimming lessons at 1. And that's not exactly like something that we were taught, like, growing up, you know. Right. And infant self-rescue became this big thing probably a decade ago, and the videos always go viral because some people think it's crazy that you'd flip your baby around. And so that was one of the other things I wanted to ask you was, you know, usually swim lessons, like, learn to swim between the ages of 3 to 5, and from 0 to 2, just make sure they don't drown, you know. But it sounds like that's not the way, especially this information is leaning. It is leaning more towards, like, hey, get your kids in the pool like 6 months, 1 year old, something like that. So I know you guys do infant swimming lessons at Imagine. I don't know if you guys are ISR or what the difference is, but can you just kind of explain all that?
Yeah. So we, the American Academy of Pediatrics has evolved their statement on this, and this is the group that, you know, pediatricians that you know,
sure,
doctors are using to make their recommendations to parents. They years ago, they essentially said, don't bother getting swim lessons before 4. It's not developmentally appropriate. Your kid won't be able to really learn the skills, and we even think it might contribute to an increased risk in drowning. Fortunately, since then, they have significantly revised that statement, and they state, you know, start at 12 months. Now, we've spoken to the leaders at the AAP that are in charge of these statements, and they've told us very, very clearly, we're not saying don't start before 12 months. We can't say start before 12 months unless or until there's more research around this. So it's just kind of a professional responsibility that they have. But I think that's important to keep in mind because, you know, I can tell you, I got both of my daughters in the pool for the first time at 3 weeks. As soon as their belly button healed, we were
That's great.
We weren't doing ISR. We weren't like dunking them underwater for long periods of time, but we were just acclimating them to the pool. You mentioned Dr. Robert Jorgensen from the Griffith University study.
That's right. Yep, that's the one.
Yeah, that has showed, along with a lot of other research, has shown significant benefits to getting children into swim classes at a very, very early age, that go well beyond just that significant reduction in drowning risk to, just improved physical development, balance, coordination, muscle development, just awareness, early socialization. There are a few things that you can really do at such an early age of infancy, where you're with a bunch of other babies your age. And also, everyone in the pool is on the same level, right? Everybody's head is right above the water. It's eye level. It's this very, very engaging environment and activity, and just all the feedback that the babies get from the water just moving across their body allows them to, gives them a heightened awareness of what their different body parts are doing, where they are in space and in relationship to each other. And that just jumpstarts all kinds of neurological development. So it's a very, very cool thing. At Imagine, we start babies at 8 weeks in just our Baby Splash program, which is very low key, low pressure, just kind of orienting. And we use that as an opportunity to focus more on the parents. So we teach the parents what's the best kind of way to hold your baby for different types of activities, what sort of attitude or environment are we trying to foster in class. And then once they're about 4 months, then we graduate them to the regular parent me lessons, where we really are working more on those swim skills, breath control. And I've seen a lot of kids learn to swim before they learned how to walk, including my own. And I'm with you. I remember, I'm like an aquatics lifer, right? So I did the baby and mommy classes at the local Parks and Rec pool every summer when I was a kid. Then I swim lessons and then swim team. And then as soon as I could take the lifeguarding class, I started lifeguarding, teaching, managing pools, et cetera, et cetera. And it was completely different. Swim classes before the age of 3 were really just nobody's head even got wet. I don't think, you're just kind of splashing around singing songs,
hanging out with mom or dad.
And then from 3 to 5, the teachers are just trying to not make the kids cry or get them to stop crying, and
or
then
get in the water because it's too cold.
Yeah, exactly. But it's very, very different now. There are so many more just learn to swim schools now, as opposed to, I think when we grew up, it was mostly Parks and Rec, YMCA. Those are pretty much the only outlets for the most part, with some exceptions. So
now you can buy into a franchise, and start your own swim lessons business.
That's its own entire podcast. You should get Casey.
Yeah. We will.
But it's a totally different thing. Infants can absolutely learn to swim. You just have to get the environment right, approach it with the right attitude, go at the child's pace. And it has so many benefits. Most importantly, the safety and the reduction in drowning risk.
Yeah. But like you said, I think Robin Jorgensen's work, the study shows that if your kids swim, but they get swim lessons between the ages of 3 and 5, they are 15 months ahead emotionally, 20 months ahead in taking directions. That's almost 2 years ahead, So there is a lot. The actual title of the study is Adding Capital to Young Australians. And I think that title is so beautiful because that's what they're trying to say. Yes, we want to prevent drownings. We've been talking about that for the last 27 minutes, but we haven't even gotten to all the good stuff yet. We're going to prevent the drownings, and then we're going to put these kids way ahead. So when they go to school, they're going to be ahead. And I think they also show it in terms of math and reading and language skills. They're all ahead. So it's much more than just the drowning thing that I think that we can sometimes, everyone can just focus on, but these other things are another reasons why we should be teaching kids how to swim. It's, I think we're stuck in the thing I hear the most is, oh, well, we're giving each second grader 10 free swim lessons. That is a very normal thing across America in cities that feel like that's going to do the thing. That's going to fix the problem or whatever. Those kids already drowned. You're way past the point of it, So it is nice. Like in Virginia Beach, we're the same way. We have 2 weeks. Every second grader gets 10 free swim lessons. That is better than nothing. But they would have the likelihood of them drowning is way gone. It's already passed. So you got to get them in there early. The discussion should be about pre-K, right? Which has been a big topic, even here in Virginia Beach. Again, like I think we're funding millions and millions of dollars for pre-K programs, and what a big part of the pre-K program could be is swimming.
Yeah.
And then every single kid learns how to swim. Every single kid is a little bit ahead of the game when they go to our normal schools. And then from there, we got to figure out, I'm interested to hear more about the curriculum that you can download, because that's the next thing I really wanted to talk about was, how can I take what you guys have done, right, and use it as a blueprint to try to get the same thing done in my state of Virginia, right?
Yeah.
Like it seems like most of this stuff is probably open source, like it is. So I want to get all the links for the curriculum, for the bills, for all anything that you guys have done, and send it out to everyone and say, if you're interested in trying to lobby for a bill like this for your state, this is how Imagine Swimming and the New York Water Safety Coalition did it. This is how you can do it too.
Yeah, that's what we want to happen. We want to be an open source and resource to everybody, all groups that want to do something similar in other states. The New York governor's office asked us not too long ago, as we were getting towards the final stages of getting this bill passed, can you point us to other states that have a similar law? And we said, not exactly. Do you have Victoria, Queensland, Western Australia?
Right, exactly.
We used but that's what we did basically. Though we said, look, Australia is decades ahead of the United States as far as it's concerned. There is not another model similar to this in the U.S. yet, but we're confident that we can lead the nation in this and be a positive model for the rest of the country. And there's no question in our mind that it's going to do a lot of good for a lot of people. So that's effectively what we did. And we're developing a little playbook that we can share with people. We also have a lot of our resources available on nywsc.org. There's a resources page there that has those CDC causes of death data visualizations I mentioned earlier. There's a map I put together where I took something like 6 years of drowning data from the total aquatic programming that tracks that information from media reports. And I put that into a Google map so you can actually see across the state of New York where all these drownings occur. And that was very effective tool, because first of all, you look at it, it's overwhelming and it's depressing. At one point, I made the mistake when I was putting it together to actually go in and click on each of those drownings and see like media stories about them, which is incredibly depressing, especially when my kids are like in that at-risk age window, and I would see stories about kids their age. But then we brought it to politicians and stakeholders, and we were able to show them this is an issue in your district, because this is an issue in every district in the state. And I suspect that would be the case across the country.
For sure.
And there are a few other resources that we put up there, links to the National Institutes of Health studies showing that 88% reduction in drowning risk.
Right.
And then I think we'll put together a playbook with some recommendations for any group that wants to do something similar, and we'll put that up on the website when it's ready as well.
All right, excellent. Well, what we'll do is me and you will work behind the scenes here. We'll get all the links to everything, and we'll put it in the show notes here, and we'll put out a special email to our subscribers. We have like 14,000 readers of the Swim Nerd newsletter, and we'll send people to each of those resources so that they can try to do something in their own hometown. I don't think this is a federal thing. This is a local thing. And obviously everyone's got different scenarios. If you're landlocked in Wyoming, it's way different than being in Virginia Beach where we got 80 miles of coastline or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but I think this is it's a beautiful thing, man. The hospital video bill is so important. It's, education and awareness has always been number one.
Tired of settling for less than the best with your team's dryland program? SwimStrong Dryland is the answer you've been looking for. With world-class dryland programming for every age group, customized to fit your team's needs, nutritional coaching and education centered on the latest evidence-based research, leadership training and character development to promote an athlete-driven culture, sports psychology education and mental skills training, coaches' corners to promote collaboration, data-driven performance analysis, and an unrivaled family of athletes, coaches, and teams, Fast Swimming starts here.
Hey guys, I've been trialing some revolutionary new swim tech, and now you can get your hands on it too. This is EO Swim Better, a swimming evolution in the palm of your hands. Improve your technique with EO Swim Better.
Analyze your stroke technique with EO's Swim Better handset. Go to eolab.com, use code Brett at checkout, and save 10%.
And we all grew up as swimmers. It's like the swimming world and the drowning world, they're just not even, they don't know each other, which is kind of a crazy thing. But yeah, education and awareness, that's what this thing's going to do. I'm so glad the governor signed it. So when what's the next step for that? Is that how they're going to implement it? When's it actually going to start to roll out into hospitals?
Yeah. Before I go there, I just want to mention, you said
Sure.
It's not a federal thing, and it's not. This lobbying has to happen at the state level.
Right. Okay.
And that's an important note for a variety of reasons. But I'm not sure. Have you heard of the U.S. Water Safety National Action Plan?
Yes. That kind of just all came together not too long ago after the World Health Organization finally came out and said, they did their first big report on drowning, and they said, every single country needs their own water safety plan.
Yeah. And that's this huge 100-page report or something. That outlines specifically that. It says you need to figure out what are the risks in your state, your area, what are the resources, and then how can you put together your own plan. But the plan does do a lot of the work already, and that was put together by all kinds of different stakeholders, all the big names, the U.S. Swim School Association, USA Swimming, Red Cross, YMCA, everybody. So that's a huge resource, and I think it's important that we use it instead of reinventing the wheel.
100%.
So that's that's another thing that we're looking at the New York Water Safety Coalition. Yeah, I'm sorry.
But in terms of the actual hospital bill, being rolled out,
so it goes into effect officially 120 days after she signed it. So that puts us into late February, early March, and at that point, it will be in effect. And every time someone has a baby in the hospital, they will see this video or a video like it. What we're doing next is we're trying to get a meeting with the Department of Health, because they're in charge of deciding what video or videos are used. We put that pilot video together just to be able to show politicians
a visual. This is what it should be like.
Exactly. But we're happy to, redo that, make whatever improvements or changes they want. Or, they can decide to make their own video. They might decide that, different videos can be used. They would have to be approved by the Department of Health based on certain criteria. We're not exactly sure how that'll play out, but that's our very next step. And then, of course, we're trying to get the word out, because this is, we think this is a big deal.
It is a big deal. It is very, very important. I mean, someone had to do this, and that was y'all. And now this can really be put out to all the states. So I think it's extremely important. I can't it's so important to me. That's why I had to be part of this podcast. I've been talking about it for so long, and I didn't realize you guys had already been thinking the same thing, and you were already there, and now it's happened. So, America's really far behind. We're number one on the gold medal podium usually all the time at the Olympics and blah, blah, blah. But we are not great at swimming. A lot of us don't know how to swim at all, and we just drown like crazy.
Yeah, it's ironic. We're great at swimming in one sense, but we're also great at drowning, unfortunately.
Again, it's that giant misconnect between the two, and I just feel like it should be educational. If you read the newsletter, there's this quote I put in there from Plato all those years ago, this smart guy. He says a man is not learned until he can read, write, and swim.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just such a special gift to give to somebody in so many different facets, not just from safety, but to being further ahead in your education, to your health and fitness, to how many kids are going to grow up to be oceanographers if they don't know how to swim. How many kids are around here are going to grow up to become a Navy SEAL if they don't know how to swim? None of them, so it's such an important thing. And I really feel like we're at the beginning of it. It's 2023, almost 2024, and we're just now in America trying to figure out, like, hey, let's talk about water safety education and the fact that almost all the kids that die in America are due to drowning. It seems like it's pretty important. Like you said, it was never there. Like, here's all these things you guys have to talk about, but drowning, even though it's number one, wasn't there. And I kind of feel like I've seen that pattern in all of drowning, not just American water safety, but international, global water safety and drowning awareness is the same thing. Like, even today, if you look at the UN sustainable goals, the developmental goals, they don't talk about drowning a single time. Never have until this report finally came out. But other than that, it was nothing. No one talked about it at all, which is even crazier to think. Like, when I talked to Dr. Michael Lennon, he really said we probably lose like 250,000 to 500,000 children a year across the globe to drowning. It's just it's unfathomable. The numbers are this high.
Yeah, well, part of the problem in this country is, you've been working on this, I've been working on this,
sure,
and other people that we don't know, or maybe we even do know, we just don't know that they're on it, have been working on it, but we haven't really pulled together. And in order to make legislative change, in order to make change at the public policy, like governmental level, we have to pull together. If you do your thing, you might teach 20, maybe 200 kids a year who wouldn't otherwise be able to get swimming lessons, right? If I do my thing, maybe that's another 20, 200 kids, but that's not a drop in the bucket. You just said 500,000 a year worldwide. Like, we need to come together. We need to get the government involved in this to make sure that we're reaching everybody that really, really needs it. We need to, I think the government can play, like, one of my legislative dreams that is a very, very heavy lift, so not something we're working on right now, would be to get local governments to play matchmaker among public schools, swim lessons providers, aquatic facilities, and private sector philanthropy. Bring them all together and get swimming lessons as part of the public school day curriculum. Because how many pools are just sitting out there?
It's the only way it's gonna work, is if you work with the private sector. It's got to be a public-private thing. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we don't have enough pools.
We don't have enough pools, and yet, at least in New York City, there are hundreds, if not more, pools sitting completely unused from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. every day.
Crazy.
At Imagine Swimming, our business model, at like 50% of our classes happen on Saturday and Sunday. The almost other 50% of them happen from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Right.
And it's the same at other swim schools. It's the same at other aquatic facilities. So we all need to come together.
And we got to get back in school.
Yeah.
It's got to be part of the school. That's it. That's the bottom line. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed this, Brendan. I appreciate your time today. And check out Imagine Swimming. They're looking for swim instructors. They got a water polo team, synchronized swimming team. They got a real swim team as well. They do it all. They got multiple locations. So if you are a swimmer that just graduated, you swam in college or something, you're moving to the Big Apple, you need a job, give Brendan a call. Give Casey and Lars, those guys, a call. They're looking for the best of the best to help do some swim lessons.
That's how Anthony Irvin, he, after his first gold medal when he was 19 years old, he got totally burnt out, traveled across the country, ended up in New York City, reconnected with Lars. Lars was like, dude, you need a job, come teach swimming lessons. He did. He reignited his love for the water and ended up with 16 years after his first gold medal, a couple more gold medals. So
yes, the Golden Bears strike again.
I'm not saying that'll happen for every single person that comes back.
But it's got a track. We got a track record, right? We got a track record. So, all right, cool, man. Well, let's get up after this. We'll get all these links. We'll send it out to everybody, and you guys can use all these resources. Thanks for your time.
Thanks so much, Nate. Yeah, it was my
No
pleasure.
problem. See ya. Bye.